Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to round 5 of the AOR Hype Season 20 PC F1 League. We are here at the Circuit Pour Ricard in the south of France for, you guessed it, the French Grand Prix. A circuit which, let's be honest, isn't a world beater in terms of real-life racing, but like many tracks in real life that fail to deliver, League Racing seems to make amends, and we hope that the trend can continue tonight in a championship that has started quite fruitfully. 4 different winners in the first 4 races. We have 5 and 5 tonight. Well, we first have to endure with the 18-minute qualifying session and the 27-lap race around this 3.6-mile circuit with 15 corners, 6 of them to the left and 9 to the right, with 2 DRS zones to promote overtaking, being on the start-finish rate, of course, and down the long Mistral straight down to turn 8. Lots of tricky corners in here that can easily catch the drivers out, so let's hope for some decent racing action tonight to go along with the other decent motor racing we've seen today. My name is James Costello, and unlike last week, I won't be your only commentator tonight, as Jens is back tonight to join me in the commentary box for, let's hope, an exciting race, Jens.
Yes, certainly. Of course, we know, or we've known from the past in real life that Pour Ricard haven't always given us exciting races, but in AOR we've seen a couple of good races here and there, and I'm sure with the drivers here tonight that they will be able to deliver.
Yeah, and coming off the Canadian Grand Prix from last week, things are looking a bit spicy in terms of the championship, and there's still a long way to go and a lot to play for, but the drivers definitely are having a good season so far in terms of giving us some good action. And even with a limited amount of drivers we have, we should be in for an interesting race. Strategy should be quite the predicament and whatnot. And even the weather might be an element. You can see on your screens it's quite overcast here in France. And we do see rain often at France. And hopefully maybe we might be able to see it in the qualifying session. If not, then in the race would be more than welcome. But as it stands, it is just about dry, and the drivers, a few of them at least, are finishing or starting their first flying laps. We can see most of them who are out on track at the moment are on the soft compound tyre, of course. And we should be seeing a normal one-stop strategy from the soft to the mediums or the hards. Both of them are quite valuable as the strategy options, but yeah, the soft are definitely the ones we'll see most of in this qualifying session.
Yes, certainly. You can see both these skies are a bit darker than usual, you could say, especially for France, but seeing as most of the drivers are still in the pits, no one really wanting to go out, that's usually a sign that there won't be any rain to come. As you can just see, there's a ray of sunshine just coming down on your screen. So I'll be guessing that we'll be seeing a dry qualifying the way through. Hopefully coming into the race just to spice things up. A bit of rain haven't hurt ever, so it would be nice to just see a bit of rain. As you can just see there, Tom having a bit of issues there in the second to last corner, cutting the track a bit too much. That might be a thing that we'll be able to see in the race come from a couple of drivers. And not only there's a couple of other places where the track limits can be a bit harsh sometimes, but of course if they just stayed within the limits, that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, this obviously has been a bit of a controversial track in terms of track limits and whatnot. Obviously the red and blue runoff areas obviously create a whole debate for another day, but obviously, yeah, there are a lot of tricky corners that can just catch the driver out, and if obviously cutting can have big consequences. Andernator did set a lap time, but he got his lap time validated in the Mercedes, one of obviously 4 Grand Prix winners so far this season, and is currently P2 in the championship as it stands, just behind Tom 97, who leads the championship after taking his first official Grand Prix win of this season in Canada, having to fight off the charging pack on his aging hard tyres. Managed to do it well, and obviously managed to take the win due to penalties, and that obviously might continue. That trend might continue tonight. So yeah, we'll have to be prepared for any potential penalties or whatnot, as Tom crosses the line, and he also gets his lap invalidated. It was a 1:27.3, so not a bad lap time from the Alfa Romeo driver and the championship leader, of course.
Yeah, certainly just showing how much of a benefit you can get if you stay clean off penalties. We've seen it many times before that not just a race win, but any position, any small point in the championship can be lost or gained by just staying clean of penalties. And these drivers clearly showing here, as Scrippy also gets his laps invalidated, they're just showing how tricky this track is in terms of track limits, because on this track it is very much the white line and no further. If all 4 wheels are across that white line, you get either your lap time invalidated or you get first 2 warnings, then your 3rd warning, bang on, that's a penalty. And it is quite strict penalties, but these drivers is just showing that if you just extend a bit too much, that is what is having to be done to get people to stop doing that. But these drivers still having trouble with it from time to time, shown by us not even having a time on the boards yet from anybody, even though we have plenty of completed laps. Certainly because drivers have just been cutting a corner a bit too much, or especially on the straight, just going a bit too wide and getting either your left hand side wheel or your right hand side wheel just a bit too much over the edge of the track to get the best entrance into either the chicane or Senior at the end of the Mistral.
Yeah, of course. We are nearly halfway through this qualifying session. No lap time to the board. The drivers are pushing and finding the limits of the track. Scrippy, can he evade this corner which he got his lap invalidated? He did, so hopefully, fingers crossed. Obviously none of the commentators, because we can see the first lap time on the board with 9.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. It might be a case of if you get a lap time on the board, you could be like in a decent position from the race, but Scrippy's actually backed off.
Coming into the race.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is. So yeah, the drivers not really wanting to set lap time, but I'm sure that we will be seeing lap times come in very soon. Currently we have Kreisig out on track, his home Grand Prix. He is about to start his qualifying lap. Let's see if he can get lap time in, or if he is one of the victims of the strict rules here, coming into turn 1, going far to the right, staying on the line. Some would have said that was just on the line, some would have said that was a bit over. I think that looked fair enough. Coming now into the final parts of Sector 1, still keeping it clean, as you can see down on the right hand side map. And of course purple sector, since no one has put down any delta time to match. Now on to the Mistral straight, opens the DRS for the second time on the lap. Now coming down, he's going to the right. Try not to go too far to the right. Yeah, keeps us still on the track. Well done. Now first left, then right, and then left again before rejoining the Mistral and finishing the second sector. Of course, still purple. Now coming down to Senior, that flat out right-hander. Nicely done there. Also on the exit, doesn't go too far. Then the double apex corner there. That double right-hander, and he gets his lap time validated. It was going so well.
It was, wasn't it? It was right on the limit. That looked like a pretty decent first and second sector. He's actually going to come and finish the lap, so we can actually see what that lap time would have been had he not made that little error. Kreis is looking for a decent result in his home Grand Prix, of course, and it was a 1:27.2, which would have been pole, but if anyone gets a lap time, they'll be on provisional pole at the moment. But as it stands, no one. We only have a few other drivers who are on laps, Christian and Warren, and both of them have had their lap times validated, and Scrippy's on his out lap, and the rest are in the pits. So any inclines to a potential wet weather or any sort of rain have pretty much been evaporized, because, well, the drivers aren't none of them seem to be in a rush, and they're just biding their time, essentially when the track is the most grippiest. But there's no rower to lay down because barely anyone's on the track at the moment. We are seeing quite a few drivers selecting the medium tyres. Andrea, Josh and FK Gaming all setting the medium tyres. None of them are out on the track just yet, but maybe we might see some drivers risk it on the medium tyres, and especially consider the fact there's only 11 drivers. If you do sell lap time, then more than likely you'll be starting at the top 10 and have a decent chance on that alternate strategy. But we'll have to wait and see if Andrea, Josh and FK Gaming eventually come out. And if they do come out, do they come out on those medium tyres? Failer isn't. Failer's on the softs, as is obviously Scrippy and Christian, who are both out on the track. But apart from that, yep, everyone is in the pit lane, biding their time.
Yeah, and Scrippy showing the track limits once again on the exit of turn. That's turn number 1 already. So getting out there early with the annihilation, not wanting to finish this lap off and get any time on the board. It's almost like they're doing it on purpose to us. But either way, as it's set now, Harris will be starting on pole position with a free choice of time.
Yep.
Which is interesting, to say the least. And with that is 6 out of 11 drivers currently having selected the medium tyre. The 5 rest are still on the soft tyre selection. So I'm thinking, we all know the final mad dash, the final 2 minutes of a session. Normally, I say, that's drivers improving their banker laps from earlier. But in this session, it's very much a question of who can get a lap time in, and if they can't, where will they finish or stop? Warren, what is Warren doing? I can just selecting full west then into me.
An error.
Now everybody except for Scrippy and Warren is on the medium tyre. Warren is thinking that it's a lake out there. Scrippy not.
He must still be in Istanbul.
Yeah, Warren is still making his way here from Istanbul, which is fair enough. We all have those days. And Scrippy has just come in from his lap. The only driver out on track currently is Josh. He's down in 7th place, although it doesn't really matter because he doesn't have a time. There's 3 minutes and 55 seconds left of the session. He's coming into the middle parts of Sector 3. He's about to start his lap. So let's see if he can put in a lap time. Many drivers have had difficulties in this session. You can see other drivers also coming out now. I'm hoping that Warren will come out on that set of intermediate tyres just for a bit of comedic effect. Although knowing that it is not very professional of him. Either way, Josh is about to start his lap time, so let's see what he will be able to do. Now, Josh coming into turn number 1 there, having the doors wide open, comes across the line, starts the lap. He has to watch out there for drivers in the pit lane coming up, but he avoids them nicely there, keeping it all the way to the right side before going left, then right again, and then all the way to the left. Now, coming through turn number 2, down to turn number 3 now, taking the right-hander nicely, then that long left-hander before sharply cutting to the right once again, and then right again through turn 6, before going left onto the Mistral straight. That back straight that is just being split up by that single small chicane in the middle there, getting a bit of help with the slipstream there from Andinator, who's on his out lap there, but Josh has the Euros wide open for the second time off the lap, then coming in, getting blocked just a bit by his teammate there in the chicane, but still he has the slipstream on the exit there, taking the nice small left-hander. Then just getting out of the way there, Cryzix nicely before Josh coming in to see that quick right-hander. Then it's the double right-hander in the second, or in the final part of the track. Then into turn number 12, Bender, he comes through there. Then the long sweeping right-hander of turn 13. You're coming into turn number 14. And finally cutting through turn number 15. And finishing off the lap. Let's see where he will end up. Oh, he is first place at 128.4 for him. Well done nicely there.
Let's see where he ends up, but he's only one who had a time, so of course it'll be P1.
Of course.
But,
we're used to, at this stage of the qualifying session, that it is quite close, but the drivers have elected it not to be this time round, which is fair enough. Tom 97 now, coming through the final part of sector number 3, coming into Bender, that left-hander off turn 12, before taking through the long sweeping right-hander of turn 13, quite an unlucky corner for some, before cutting through the final 2 corners. Let's see, will he be able to challenge that 128.4 time, or will he be behind? Coming across the line, it's a 128.247. Well done to Tom. Able to set lap time, sets it on the medium tyre. Well done to him. Now, behind it will be Paris, because I know he's starting his lap, but Warren DNFing due to him by accident, I assume, picking the intermediate tyre, still being stuck at Istanbul Park. A couple of drivers now coming across the line, saying a couple of different lap times. Christian with 131, Cryzix with the 128, Brownie going to cross the line with the 128.5. Then we're going to have Scrippy starting a lap time, and Josh coming into the pits there. So, who is out on lap times right now? We have Warren now coming into the chicane, take the left hand on the nice, and he got his lap time validated, never mind. Behind...
It's just Chrissy the Scrippy on laps.
Scrippy is... Where's Scrippy? Oh, no, further ahead we have Jan Fehler. Jan Fehler, great coordinator of this league. What will he be able to do? Will he be able to challenge for pole position here today? He has to just challenge a 128.2, and he's setting the fastest sector 2 time. What will he be able to do once he comes up to the final couple of corners? There, taking that double right-hander nicely, that double apex before coming into Bender, taking the left-hander nicely there. Then through the long sweeping right-hander of turn 13, then turn 14 before coming in to turn 15. Putting it full throttle, opens the Duras now, stays to the left hand side, doesn't pull to the right, and then he just comes across the line. It's a 128.1, and he goes provisionally into pole position for now. Then it's Scrippy. He's going to be our final driver to cross the line, who's on a timed lap. Opens the Duras What will he be able to do? He's coming up to the line. There he comes, and it's a 128.3, and he goes 5th fastest.
Well, that's it then. Right of the day. Everyone bar a few, only 3 drivers. Paris, Warren, and FK Gaming all didn't set a lap time, but the rest did. And the drivers that did, wow, it's very close. It's 4 tenths exactly separating P1 and P8. So yeah, the drivers are very closely matched, especially on those medium tyres. It's very close at the front. I mean, it's very close everywhere, to be honest. So if you can translate the qualifying pace into the race pace, and the drivers be this close to each other throughout the 27 laps, then we should be in for a very intriguing Grand Prix. But that's Failer's taking a pole position for McLaren, doing the bits, and we'll be very pleased with that flying lap. Most drivers opted to go for just a 1 run, which is quite risky, to be honest. But as you can see, it paid off for most of them. Didn't pay off for Paris, and obviously Warren, for whatever reason, didn't come out of the pits. Neither did FK Gaming, so they rock up the back of the field. But yeah, we'll see. Well, I mean, we assume it's going to be dry conditions, given the fact that everyone opted for the medium tyres, and yes, it's quite sunny here. So yeah, let's see what this Grand Prix has in store for the 11 drivers, and let's see if Failer can turn his first pole position into a race victory.
Yeah, of course, he was able to get on the podium here not too long ago, of course, so he'll be hoping to at least convert this very nice pole position into something a bit more. But of course, with the drivers behind him, I'm sure that it will be a challenge for him. Multiple of these drivers, of course, having loads of pace, of course, so does Failer. But I'm sure that they'll be doing their utmost to try and get past as quickly as possible and try and gain a bit of a lead. But I'm sure that Jan Failer will be doing his best to stay in the lead here as we're coming on to the formation lap for the 27-lap race round Le Castellet.
There are a lot of overtaking opportunities here. Turn 1, which the drivers are coming through now, is an overtaking opportunity, but it's quite a high-speed corner, so you're going to have to rely on a lot on the DRS. The predicted pit stop strategy comes in, and unsurprisingly, it's a medium to hard, pitting around about lap 11 for the hard compound tyre. And obviously for the drivers who have opted to start on the hards, that will be a polar opposite. Both the Red Bulls and FK Gaming, unsurprisingly, going for the alternate strategy, which, like most races in this season, is the hard tyres compared to a medium, whilst the drivers go on soft. It's been like that for the majority of this season, and obviously that trend continuing today. But as you said, this should be quite the fascinating Grand Prix. Failer obviously couldn't attend last time out, so I'll be looking to do better for himself and make up for a disappointing past few races. But he's got a lot of competition. Andonata and Tom, like I said, on the top 2 on the Drivers' Championship, and they will definitely be in the hunt come turn 1 on lap 1, or just throughout the entire Grand Prix. To be honest, I don't think Failer will have it easy, but he has to get off the line first, and that's easier said than done. But yeah, drivers are now, at least a Failer is coming down towards his grid slot, and should be able to get this race underway. Obviously, the 5th round of this championship. France, as I said in the intro, doesn't really make a great spectacle in terms of real life racing, but there's always a spark of magic that always happens in league racing, especially at AOR. So hopefully we can see another fascinating Grand Prix as FK Gaming now lines up in his grid spot in P11 and last. And now we should be able, and we will be able to get this race underway. The French Grand Prix, and when the 5 red lights go out, we are underway for 27 laps around Paul Ricard, and it's an evenly matched start between Fela and Andrea. They're going to go wheel to wheel into turn 1, but McLaren with the inside line, taking that, or keeping that P1, as they all file through the first few corners pretty much unscathed. Tom in P3 holding his own. There goes, I think that was Paris going wheel to wheel with Brownie. He's made up a lot of ground on the opening lap. Has the Red Bull driver, and now he's up into P6. Very good start for him, but as he come onto the Mistral straight for the first time, it looks very clean for most of the drivers, as you'd expect. Given so far this season, we've not had too many incidents, but Fela still leading into the Mistral chicane, and keeps the hang ahead of Andrea, Tom, Krajicek up to P4, Brownie P5, Paris P6, Scrippy down to P7, Warren P8, Josh down to P9, Elgato Gaming in P10, and Christian at the back of the field for now. Scrippy and Paris having a ding-dong now coming through turn 10. Scrippy getting ahead of the Red Bull, who fights back into La Bose. And will he keep it, or they go wheel to wheel and into turn 12? Can he keep this move done? Can the Red Bull drive? He does. But Scrippy might try and fancy his chances into the final few corners if he gets a decent run into here, but it doesn't look like he has, and Paris look like he has that place done as we head on to start lap 2. And yeah, Bian Fela still keeping ahead, but Andrea is right on his tail.
Yeah, it was very close in the fight between Scrippy and Paris there, as I think that's there just behind Warren and Scrippy now, battling a bit out. Warren there just able to nip it down the inside, coming into the first corner there, or down the straight I should say. But now Scrippy, he'll be hoping that he can fight back down the Mistral straight, but first they just have to navigate these couple of corners there, turn 4, 5 and 6, before they can go flat out down the straight. Now let's see about Scrippy just behind here in P number 8. He'll be hoping that he can charge back for P number 7 that he got robbed off down the straight. Just coming into the corner now. Let's see, coming in, no, he's unable to challenge. What about further ahead? Andonator, no, still having to stay behind Jan Fela. Jan Fela defending nicely there up in P number 1. Andonator right behind him as mentioned, but he is closing up. What about into turn number 11? No, he was close, he was thinking about it, but unable to dive it down the inside nor round the outside into Bender. No, sticks it behind nicely. No battling further behind, still keeping it nice and tight, this field. Very packed up, everyone within a second of each other except for FK Gaming down in last place. But now on to the start and finish straight for the start of lap number 3. It's now the DRS will be enabled, and it's now that we might be able to see some changes for position.
Yeah, Andrea looking very likely to get past Fela into turn number 8. It just looks like he's a little bit more grip down Fela, and it looks like it's been a little bit held up, to be honest. Can't quite extract the pace that he'd want stuck behind the McLaren, but it doesn't look like he'll be stuck behind for much longer, as through turn 6 we go, and now into turn number 7, and now with DRS it'll also be a clean and easy pass from one German into the lead to another in the German car. In the black Mercedes goes Andrea, P1 for the Mercedes driver. That was a very easy maneuver. Fela could not do anything without the DRS intact, and obviously had to concede the position down to P2, but thankfully for him, Tom is jumping a little bit further back. He doesn't seem like he has the pace to contend with Andrea, but maybe he can keep up with. Maybe Fela can keep up with Andrea. The DRS is very effective, so if Andrea can't pull away, then Fela can just stick behind him and then potentially try and re-overtake him. But we'll have to wait and see. That Andrea getting past was the only move on the previous lap due to DRS, and Tom actually saying that has actually managed to keep the gap, and actually manages to well, he nearly manages to get Krajic's out of his DRS range. As you said, FK Gaming is the only driver without DRS thus far. Obviously, his race will come in the latter stages whilst he's on the hard tyres at the moment, of course. But Failer is still right there with Underdater. But let's see, down towards turn 8, if he can mount an attack back at Underdater. I don't think it looks like Underdater going very eager to, or very early to defend. But doesn't look like he'll have an attack coming his way anytime soon as he head into turn 8, and it's as you were, Underdater still leading.
Yeah, of course, the DRS can be very powerful, although Tom right behind now in the slipstream behind Jan Failer. He's able to get the DRS off Jan Failer, but Jan Failer still has the DRS off Underdater, meaning that we're just stuck in this DRS train where positions won't really be changed. But seeing as these drivers have so much speed, I'm sure that someone will be able to find a way past at some point. Now coming through turn number 13, that right-hander with hard braking and afterwards before coming on to the straight. I'm sure that someone will be able to find a way past, maybe even Tom on Failer, or Failer is able to keep up with Underdater. Of course, right behind, you shouldn't forget, we have a driver like Crysis right behind, able to capitalise on any mistakes made by these drivers. So this top 4 is a fight that can be very spicy come not just the latter stages of this race, but can evolve into something really exciting if any of these drivers decide to go for the move at any time.
And Paris actually looking pretty handy, as well as his teammate, to be fair. Both of the Red Bulls looking pretty nifty on those hard compound tyres. Paris right behind Brownie, but obviously because everyone has DRS, obviously apart from the leader, it's very difficult to make a move down these straights. You're going to have to catch your opponent napping, and that's probably what Tom has to do if he wants to get past Failer, because it looks like he has a bit more confidence through certain corners, especially through Sector 1 and Sector 3. But obviously it is very, very tricky to not just overtake cars, but just follow in general, as Jan Failer there. It's a little bit twitchy coming out of the both, and Tom is right behind him, and Failer is on the fringes of losing DRS from Underdater, and if that happens, it's game over. Speaking of game overs, FK Gaming might be out this Grand Prix. Well, he's in the walls. It looks like he's lost a bit of his front wing, and that spells bad news for one of the Alfa Romeos. He's going to have to come in a box, and it looks like he might be our first DNF, or one of the only drivers to DNF in this Grand Prix, or the only driver to not score points. Yeah. So now as it stands, if Chavez finishes the Grand Prix, they're guaranteed points. Unfortunate for FK Gaming, but hopefully his teammate Tom can hold the flag down for Alfa Romeo and do a good job for the Constructors' Championship, and a good way of doing that will obviously be getting past Failer, but Failer managing to keep within that DRS range crucially, otherwise it would have been curtains, as actually Krajic's now getting close behind Tom as well, so he's in the fight as well. Watch out for the Racing Point, obviously in his home Grand Prix. Wouldn't mind a cheeky win. I remember the last time we did a AOR F1 race, or F2 races it was back then, at the French Grand Prix. It was Soren who took a home Grand Prix for himself, so wonder if Crysis can repeat the feat tonight, but he's got three drivers ahead of him, and obviously a lot of hard work coming up.
Yeah, just looking back at FK Gaming's retirement, he had already been struggling a lot in this race. He had already gotten himself three second time penalties, so he's already given him 9 seconds of penalties. So it was, no matter what, going to be a very long and tough race for him. But I'm thinking just the looked like a solo exit of turn 11. That must have just been the final straw, even though it was quite early in the race, which is always very unfortunate to see. We don't want drivers to go out of the race, but it sometimes happens. And yeah, he was already struggling, so I can very much understand his frustration in the cockpit, and then that just having been the last straw. But now, looking at his teammate and looking at the drivers still in the race, Tom is still quite close to Jan Fehler, and Jan Fehler has lost the DRS on Andinator. So I think we're going to be seeing a pass, if not on this lap, then the next lap. It's going to happen quite quickly. Unless Jan Fehler can really get his foot down, which it doesn't look like it, because look at this. Here comes Tom in the slipstream, going to the right hand side of the track. He'll just be on the inside of Senior and able to take the position up into second place. Jan Fehler not really defending too much. He knows the position is lost, but I'm sure that he will be able to fight back in the next couple of laps if he wants to stay in that podium position. And he has to now look behind him as well, because Crysis is catching rapidly.
Well, of course, Tom no longer has DRS because he got past Fehler, and obviously losing time behind the McLaren as Scrippy now comes into the pit on lap 6. So, as you saw on the pre-race graphic, being lap 11 to soft compound tyres for Scrippy, interestingly. So that's a guaranteed 2-stop at least for the Mercedes. So he's obviously going against the norm of a medium to hard strategy. It'll be interesting to see how his race unfolds. Will be in a lot of clean air, will the Mercedes, but yeah, he's gonna have to hope for a few incidents or whatnot to propel him up the field and be in a similar position to where his teammate is right now, still leading the way as it stands, like he has done pretty much since he took the lead from Fehler in the opening few laps, but he hasn't pulled away to the extent that he would have wanted. Tom is still right there. 1.1 seconds a gap between P1 and P2. And Tom obviously has Fehler and Crysis right there for company. Brownie still keeping within that DRS range of Crysis, which is helping him a lot to stay ahead of Paris, who looks like he got so much more grip and confidence on those hard compound tyres. Look, there goes Fehler into the pits on lap 7, another early pit stop. Is he going to go onto the softs as well, or is he going to play it safe and go onto the hards? We'll have to wait and see as he comes into his box. Now it is the hards that is coming on. So he'll come out in clean air, thankfully for him, and that releases Crysis now to potentially have a sniff at Tom. But in saying that, Crysis now doesn't have DRS, and Brownie now does. Or might do, yeah, he will get DRS. Speaking of getting DRS, Tom's now within a second of Andinator. So the battle for the lead, I've just got a little bit more tastier. Obviously, he's a bit too far behind on this occasion, but if you catch up with a few more laps, it might be another change of leadership.
Yeah, another fight that's worth just keeping an eye on for now is the fight for 4th place. Brownie just tiptoeing on that edge of losing the DRS to Crysis, and then he has the 2 Red Bulls of Paris and Warren right behind him, able to pounce. The 2 Red Bull drivers doing very well on their hard tyres. Brownie is still on his medium tyre from the start. Of course, Paris and Warren started on the hard tyre. And they are quite close. They're both within DRS. They're quite comfortably within the DRS, but Brownie is on the edge of losing it to Crysis all the time. He was within 8 tenths on the last lap. Now he's just on the edge of the second. So, and now he's on the second. So he's just playing it very dangerous with that 1 second. And the second he loses it, I know that Paris at least will be there to pounce. And on the lap after that, if not on the same lap as Paris will be trying to get past, Warren will be there. So these 2 Red Bull drivers have immense amount of pace, and Brownie is going to quite possibly lose the DRS on this lap, and then they'll just be flying past down the Mistral straight.
It looks like, though, Brownie's managed to salvage that DRS. Although, coming onto...
No.
Oh, he's not got it!
Yeah, no. The detection point is just before turn number 7. They begin to turn in, and then the detection point is there. and he was just outside the second, but Paris, he was just missing a bit to gain the DRS. As you can see there on the minimap to the right hand side, you have the detection point for the Mistral straight just before turn 7, just before the kink as they come out to the straight, and you have the detection point for the start finish straight. You have that just before the left hander where you also dive it into the pits. So Brownie needs to be within a second of Crysis on these two places on the circuit. If not, he'll have Paris right behind him trying to get past as much as possible and just trying to be there into turn 1 or turn 8 or even turn 10 of Piscine.
Oh no. Oh no again. 2 5-second penalties leading the pit lane, one for Christian and one for, crucially, Andrea. Oh dear. Well, he's responded to failure. Tom still stayed out. We'll see if Andrea can emerge ahead. You'd imagine he will do, but obviously that 5 seconds will be a burden to his race. And, well, as it stands, failure is behind him, but obviously within 5 seconds of him. So that mistake probably will be very costly for Andrea's race. So I see goes Paris now.
So, yeah, here comes Paris.
Yeah, wow, he made that. Wow, that was a very aggressive move from the Red Bull driver. You can really tell he wants to make this move and get past the Renault driver. You clearly tell he's being held up there, and you can see just how far ahead Tom is in the distance. And even with this alternate strategy, they want to be making their moves, the Red Bull drivers, and they don't want to wait until they eventually go on to the mediums and go on to the quicker tyre. But as it stands, the hard might be, well, probably is the quicker tyre at this stage of the Grand Prix. As you can see, Warren now is right behind Brownie. Let's see if the Renault driver comes into the pits. Tom's in. Brownie stays out, much to Warren's nuisance, because he still has DRS from Paris. So Paris not doing any favours for his teammate here. Tom, crucially, didn't speed. So that's already an advantage for him. But I imagine he's going to be emerged behind Andrea. Maybe he might emerge behind Failure as well. Let's see though, as he comes at 60 kph down and now can get on the gas. Andrea is through and Failure has got through as well. So Failure making the undercut work. Tom has now got to re-overtake the McLaren driver. But thankfully for him, his saving grace is that he got 3 lap fresher tyres compared to Failure. As yeah, looks like Warren. Oh, I thought Warren was making a move there, but Brownie with the DRS saves his bacon. But yeah, we have they're the only 2 drivers that haven't pitted in this Grand Prix, winning 1, 2, and 3. Andrea is in P4, just ahead of Failure, just ahead of Tom. But can Tom make a move? He's going for it early down the inside at turn 8, and Failure couldn't do anything at all. Tom sails down the inside. And he made light work of the McLaren. And here comes Crysis now. Nearly pushing the McLaren driver down towards turn 10. Oh, we're nearly losing it there. Is Crysis. Jan Failure actually trying to come back at Tom. But obviously it's pretty much a one-way system through Le Beausset. And Tom manages to keep hold of Crysis, and they're losing the control of his car there. Scrippy's right behind this gang as well. He's on the soft compound tyres, of course. He's obviously going for a different strategy. And he's obviously managing to make those tyres work for how many laps he can do. Brownie comes into the pits, of course, and obviously unleashes the Red Bull duo. And obviously don't expect much battling between these two. They obviously know the task at hand is not to battle, because that'll lose them time. The task at hand is to keep these tyres alive until the very end, or not to the very end of the race, but until they can last, and then onto the mediums, and then you can see what they can do. But if anything, they are looking really good bets for podium places, maybe even the win. Especially considering today's penalty, it's all in the balance.
Yeah, another driver that you would have thought with trying the audacious strategy there, Scrippy, you must have thought that he could have been in with a chance for the win if he could make it work. unfortunately for him, on 2 laps ago, picked himself up a 3-second time penalty. So really showing the struggle with this track and the penalties. He's down in 7th place, and trying to make this soft tyre strategy work, he's going to be falling even further down the field and then having to fight his way back up. And then for every driver he overtakes, he needs to pull a 3-second gap not to lose that position. So he is under a lot of pressure if you want any good positions in this race today. But I'm sure that he's fired up, and once he comes in, I would guess they would come in for a set of medium tyres. Although saying that, you never know. He could be trying to stretch this set of soft tyres and go on to another set of soft tyres. I just think that might be a bit too optimistic and risking a puncture a bit too much.
Wow, I'm just looking race director. A lot of, pretty much all the drivers, apart from Scrippy, have been exceptionally clean. Some even not even getting a single warning. And well, over halfway through this Grand Prix at a track where we were mentioning in qualifying, the drivers could barely keep on the track within their limits. Obviously, they're pushing to different percentages, but still, the fact that barely anyone has got penalties in this Grand Prix, and some have not even got any warnings thus far, is obviously a great omen to the quality of the drivers in this league, and obviously the racecraft being in top form tonight. And we said penalties might be a deciding factor in this race, but it still might be with Andinator, but no sign of any 3-second time penalties coming the ways of the drivers at the front. So when Paris now comes into the pits, and you can imagine he will ditch those hards for a set of mediums. And yep, the Red Bull crew have got that ready for him. Warren now takes the lead. Let's see where Paris emerges back into this Grand Prix once more. As he comes trundling down the pit lane, Andrea will get past him, as will Tom, as will Cryzix. Maybe Paris is still at 60 kph. Now he's released back into this race proper, and he is, as he was, behind Brownie, which he's not probably sick of the back teeth of that Renault, but has to make his way past once again. But given the fact he's on those fresh medium tyres, he's in a much better position than he was on the hards.
Yes, certainly you must say now on those medium tyres. I'm just looking at the leader gaps, and I'm guessing that Paris maybe lost 21.5 seconds, maybe 22 seconds. There's some battling up further ahead. Failer and Cryzix there, battling it nicely out on track currently. But yeah, I'm guessing he'll lose about 21 to 22 seconds in the pits. So Warren will probably be coming out in 8th place behind Paris, and at least in front of Christian as he's coming into the pits on this lap. Now we'll find out for sure where he comes out. Most of the drivers now making their way through turn 13 before cutting to 14 and 15 and onto the straight. Let's see, as Warren's car is now holding still on with the medium tyres, and he is let go once again, as at the same time Scrippy comes into the pits to change his soft tyres, most likely onto medium tyre like Warren. But now let's see where Warren comes out. Comes out in 7th place, just in front of Christian. Paris actually made his way past Brownie there. Brownie wide off the track, all the way, having to dodge the that Pirelli sponsor board on the left-hand side of the track. So Brownie thinking the track is something it's not, and going a bit too wide there.
Yeah, so Paris is now overtaken him, and it looks like Warren might be next for Brownie. He's just can't compete with these medium tyres. They look very good, in very good shape, and Paris looking very good for a very decent point. Or thus far this season, he's not had the best few races. I mean, he's 8th in the Drivers' Championship thus far, and I don't think he's scored a podium just yet. So far this season, he hasn't. So he obviously will be looking to change his fortunes around tonight, and looks like changing to the alternate strategy. It looks like those fortunes may be rewarded as he now closes up to this battle for P3 and sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix for good measure. That'll obviously get him an extra point, but obviously that might be contested with his teammate potentially, and maybe Scrippy, who doesn't look like his strategy has worked, considering the fact he's 18 seconds off P9 and has the same amount of laps done on his medium tyres that Warren has. That Warren is the driver right behind Brownie, but not for much longer, because you can just tell how much grip he has and how much better speed he can take through the corners, especially through that first sector. And he was practically past Brownie before the DRS detection points was enabled, and he could use that to sweep past the Renault and up into P6. So the Charging Bulls, P5 and P6 at the moment, but they're also looking the most likely to make their moves. Paris right behind Jan Failer. He can afford to bide his time a little bit here. Obviously, we've still got 11 laps to go. On when they cross the line, it's still Andernator leading this Grand Prix on track, of course. But obviously, that 5-second penalty is going to cost him dear. And as it stands, he'll be down in P5 at the moment. So, obviously, yeah, we're going to see changes of positions. Tom in P2, and then we obviously have this gaggle of cars, Kreisig, Failer, and Paris in that order. But I don't think it'll be in that order for that much longer. Crucially for Failer, though, he does have DRS to keep him just ahead of Paris. But he might fancy his chances getting back past Kreisig. Coming now down onto the Mistral Straight. We'll have to wait and see. Kreisig gets a decent exit. Failer gets a decent exit. Paris gets a tremendous exit. But obviously the DRS pretty much neutralising everything, and Paris is going to have to pull a late move down the inside. Who wants to make this move done? Oh, he thought about it. Failer locks up. A bit of contact, but nothing going on there. Paris just can't quite seem to find a gap to get past Failer, and that DRS for Failer behind Kreisig is really helping him stay ahead of the Red Bull.
Yeah, and now Paris' teammate is also catching up to this fight, making it a four-way fight at least before Brownie catches up as well, making it a five-way fight for that final podium position. Their third place that Kreisig is holding on to for now. But I'm sure that these Red Bulls will be trying to make their way past as quickly as possible, and they might even be trying to catch up to the likes of Tom and Andernator. Of course, Andernator, he has a 5-second time penalty, as here comes Paris on Failer. Down the inside he goes, and someone gets the position. Well done, nicely in the braking zone through the left-hander, then going to the right, has the position up into 4th place. Nicely done there. But behind his teammate in 6th place, still trying to find a way past Jan Failer for 5th. Oh, he was thinking about going down the inside into turn number 5 there. Failer just a bit wide off the apex and just opened up a small gap. But no, it wasn't big enough for Warren, although now down the Mistral Straight. Up in front you have Paris going for the move for 3rd, and behind you have Warren going for the move for 5th place. Warren not able to complete it in the corner. Paris in 3rd, but they're side by side for 5th place there. You can see down the inside coming up to senior will be Failer on the inside, squeezing, try as much as he can on the inside there. He holds the position there side by side still for 5th place, but on the outside Warren has a bit more grip and he's able to hold it now coming in to turn number 12. He gets the position up into 5th place at the same time as his teammate went up into 3rd.
Yeah, things looking much better now for Red Bull now that both of them have cleared their respective drivers, and now Warren can get chasing after Cryzix. And obviously Paris has now been unleashed to attack and potentially go for the win. He has 8 laps to catch the 2.3 seconds, the gap between himself and Tom, and that's what he needs to do. Andrea is out of the question here. He cannot seem to pull away, crucially for him, and the win is starting to fall away from the Mercedes. It could be a 5th different winner if Paris can produce miracles here for Red Bull, but still a long way to go. Tom is definitely holding his own and has had some very good pace on these hard tyres, but will it be enough to keep Paris behind? After waiting to see though, Cryzix still within Paris' DRS, so Warren can't make any progress on the racing points. So run 3 and 5 now is Paris, and Paris, yeah, we've got 7 laps to go now, and it's going to be nip and tuck to see if Paris can chase after Tom. And Tom obviously going to give it everything. Tom's had a lot of history the past few races with being in the original lead of the Grand Prix and then being overtaken by a quicker driver on quicker tyres in the final few laps. Obviously we saw Brownie getting past him in Baku in the closing stages. Paris getting past him in Monaco in controversial circumstances, but this time I think it'll be a lot more easier for Paris and a lot more with a lot more pride as well. So he's still got to catch up to him though, and at the moment he's not making the inroads he would have maybe hoped for. As Warren is lost possession. That's very, 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 very bad for him. He's joined back instantly though, so yeah, he's lost. Well, considering the AI level is on like 90, he's going to lose a few seconds, but not anything substantial. He might be able to rejoin ahead of Christian, but there's been damage done to that.
It looks like he has been able to rejoin into the session, writing in chat here that he lost connection to Steam. Very, very unfortunate for Warren. He was in a great position to catch up to Cryzix and take that 4th place to equal up with his teammate, take that 3rd and 5th. But unfortunately now he's down in 7th place. He has to regain all that he has gained, has to catch up to Jan Phil and Brownie there in front before having to catch up to Cryzix once again. But I think the damage has been done, and I think very unfortunately he will he'll be stuck battling with these guys for the last couple of laps. However, Paris has caught up quite a bit now. It is 1.6 seconds.
That's even worse.
As Andonator, oh my, now it's 8 seconds worth of penalties for him. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to win this race. Just an idea I'm having here with about 5.5.
I don't even think he's going to get on the podium.
No, no, because that's 5. No, he's going to fall way down the field. If we just go on to the leader intervals, he's going to fall down to 7th place because Warren is 7.5 seconds away, and 5 plus 3, that's 8 seconds. So he'll fall down to 7th, which is quite unfortunate, but that's the rules. If you speed in the pit lane, that's 5 seconds, and if you go and cut the track or extend the track limits a bit too many times, that's 3 seconds on top, and 5 plus 3, that is 8.
Nice to see that you can still do maths.
It's basic maths.
In the evening.
It's basic maths.
Pretty much.
I was daring today. I was daring today.
That's all we need, isn't it? But in a more serious note, Paris is now 1.2 seconds, 1.1 second behind Tom. This is for the race win, of course, now that Andrea has pretty much thrown the win out the window. So, Cryzix is still right there, So Warren and Brownie are still tussling away. It looks like Warren has got the measure into turn 3. They go, and Warren now makes up a small bit of the ground. Failer also has a 3-second time penalty worth mentioning. He's the only other driver in the battle for, well, in the top 7 really, to have a penalty of some sort. So Warren is automatically ahead of him, but not on the track. And yeah, he doesn't like he'll be able. If he does get past Failer, I don't think there's very likely that he'll be able to catch up to the battle for P2, which in theory is the battle for P1. Tom, Paris, and Chrysix. The initial 1, 2, 3, and Paris is tantalisingly close to getting within that DRS range. And if he gets it now, then Tom will be sweating. He probably already is sweating very nervously, because we only have 4 laps to go now, and Paris is really starting to make a dent in that gap. But Tom, fighting valiantly, still manages. Well, yeah. Oh no, the graphic just updated there. It's now 0.8 of a second. So Paris now will have DRS, crucially, to potentially take the lead, or take second place, the provisional lead of the Grand Prix, with 4 laps to go. And you can just see through sector 1 just how much he gains through here, and just how much those medium tyres hold up compared to the hards. We're starting to age now on the Alfa Romeos. Tom going defensive. He probably knows this is for the race win, and he really wants to win this Grand Prix to make it 2-2 for him. But can he keep the Red Bull at bay? Failer can't keep a Red Bull at bay because Warren just got past him, and now he's made up those positions he lost due to that unfortunate disconnect. But I think his progress might end here, although there's still some unpredictability coming into the final few laps. I mean, Andone is starting to really pull away at this stage, so he might be able to salvage a few other positions. So you can see the gap to the leader. Brownie's 8 seconds behind, so if he gets P5 or something, I think he'll be pretty. Well, I won't be satisfied with that, but I think given the circumstances, that wouldn't be too bad of a recovery. But the battle is Tom, Paris, and Chrysix. Can Chrysix take the win? It's anyone's game at the moment between these 3.
4/10 of a second, 5.5 tenths of a second. That is the gap between Paris and Tom. 4/10 of a second. That's the gap between Paris and Chrysix. So it is very, very close between the 3 contenders for this win. Andonator, he has the 8 seconds worth of time penalties. He'll fall way down the grid. This is the battle that's worth watching right now. It is for what is on track second place, but will be the lead and the win once they cross the line on lap number 27. And look how close Paris is down the Mistral Straight now, and right behind him he has Chrysix. So none of these drivers wants to make any mistakes. Now into C, it's a corner where on the final lap, I wouldn't be surprised if Paris was still behind, he would dive it down the inside. But now look at it, as well into turn number 12, you hit the apex 2 times. Sometimes there's a bit of a gap just forming on the inside that you can just nip down. And I'm sure that Paris, of course, if he was not passed by then, he would also try that. I'm sure that Paris would be trying every single thing on the final lap if he is not passed by then. But of course, Paris or Tom doesn't have any DRS on Andonator in front because there is 3.7 seconds. But Paris, he has the DRS on Tom. So, down the Mistral Straight, it's a long straight. There is DRS, there is slipstream. Paris has overtake mode. He has reach mix. I would be surprised if Paris wasn't able to launch an attack into the Mistral chicane on the middle there, turn number 8 and turn number 9. As we're seeing here now, coming into the final parts of sector number 1 before coming out to the aforementioned Mistral Straight, 5.5 tenths of a second is a bit too far back. He does have the DRS, however. So, now he will be catching down the straight. Look at Chrysix behind as well. He probably won't be catching Paris because Paris has the DRS in front, but now look at this, in the fight for the lead. Paris dives it down the inside, but he just doesn't have the speed, just isn't able to find the space on the inside, but now he has to watch out for Crytek's right behind. There's 1.5 laps to go. Look at Crytek's go just behind into C and no, unable to find the space. You just saw Paris pull half a car length or width to the inside, and there, almost diming it down the inside of Tom in front. So you can see they're so close right now, and a single failed move from any of these drivers will prompt the driver right behind to go for the move on you. So you need to choose wisely with 1 lap to go now as they come up to the line. Animator starting his final lap in just a moment. He has 4.4 seconds, so actually they have to watch out that they don't lose everything to him, but I'm quite confident that this is the battle for the win on lap 27 out of 27, final lap of the race. If this had been in any American race car series, we would have seen a white flag by now. But Paris right behind of Tom. They're gonna come up to the start of the second sector. They're gonna come out on to the Mistral straight. It's gonna be the hardest part of the track for Tom to defend. You see Paris, he has the DRS, he's closer than he was on the last lap, but he doesn't have much overtake left in his car. There he's catching up. So much goes to the right hand side. Round the outside he goes into the Mistral chicane. He takes the position, but there Tom, he fights back now onto the second mark of the Mistral straight there. You'll see them come into scene in just a moment, but I don't think Tom will be able to go down the inside. Now look at Crytek as well in the battle there. They're so close, almost 3 wide, but Crytek now going for second place. That is first place, however, but Tom now fighting back on Crytek there. Tom trying to get back into third and second place, but Crytek's holding on valiantly there. But at the same time, Paris is running off to take what is the lead of the Grand Prix here. Now into the final corner, down the start-finish straight. Animator will cross the line, take the flag first, but across the line will Paris go, but he won't take the win. Oh yeah, you will, sorry, the precision jump round. He takes the win. Crytek takes second place, and Tom, who 2 laps ago was looking like he was going to win this race, falls down to third place.
Wow.
Once again, the ending has come up triumph. And once again, Tom gets overtaken by a driver on the final few laps that costs him victory. Wow. But that's 5 different race winners in the first 5 races, and Paris finally winning. He's been up there in pace, just hasn't managed to extract races he would have hoped for, but he managed to extract a perfect race. That hard to medium strategy worked absolute wonders. But he had to work for it, and it took him to the final lap, but he takes the victory and the fast lap as well. So that's a full 26 points for Paris. Crytek, he nearly took the win, but Paris obviously nudged him out, and Crytek did take P2 though. Great move to get past Tom down towards turn 10. And he takes the podium in his home Grand Prix, which would be delightful for him. Tom, obviously, starting P3, finishing P3. Fair to say, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed with that result. Brownie P4. He's obviously known for making positions up because of penalties, and obviously Andinator finishing in 5th, 2.7 seconds down. So, if he didn't get that 3-second time penalty, he would have won the race. Even with
he would, yeah.
Even with that speeding penalty, he still would have won the race. But yeah, he paid the price, and down to P5. Warren P6. He must have fallen off the tail, because he finished around 2 seconds behind Brownie, and obviously Failer gets a 3-second time penalty as well. Josh P8, Christian P9, and Scrippy came home in P10, and obviously we lost Elgato Gaming very early on in the Grand Prix, but yeah, what turned out to be a spectacle towards the end of the Grand Prix, it was well worth the wait, considering the start of the Grand Prix in the mid-stage was a bit of a train fest, but we got the action at the end, and what action we got.
Yeah, you certainly must say. Of course, we talked about this track in qualifying and in the intro as well, that it's a track we usually don't see that much excitement at, but AOR, once again, just showing that no matter how boring the track can be in real life, that these drivers are still able to give us entertainment. Just these drivers, with the amount of pace that they have, if they go on a bit of a different strategy to the other drivers, they're still able to come back, and they're still able to fight, and they're still able to give us these amazing ending to races. And Tom, once again, he's trying and he's trying and he's trying, but every time someone on a fresher tyre with a bit more pace coming from behind in the last 3 laps and overtakes him for the race win. You know, he's still up there in the championship, he's still up there with the fight, but if this keeps happening, he'll have another tough time towards the end of the championship, and I almost wouldn't be surprised if he lost in the final race in the same way that he lost the win today. But yeah, these drivers just able to give us such excitement. Of course, the middle part of the race was a bit too much of a DRS train, but ultimately these drivers at the end was able to just find the times, find the gaps, and give us this exciting ending to the race.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully we can continue this trend of exciting Grand Prix. Next week we will be at Austria. We've seen this track quite a few times in 2020, unlike most of the tracks we've been to so far in this AOR calendar so far this season. And we know Austria always produces the goods, so I expect nothing less than a very exciting Grand Prix. Hopefully the drivers can produce that. Hopefully a few of the drivers that unfortunately couldn't attend today be back for next week to make things even better. But regardless, yeah, a very enjoyable Grand Prix here, the French Grand Prix, and yeah, let's hopefully this season can get even better with more races down the line.
Yes, certainly, and yeah, as you mentioned, we'll be back next week for the Austrian Grand Prix. 3 DRS zones, 11 corners, and the shortest track, or at least the shortest lap time on the whole calendar. It's quite the spectacle. We've seen great racing there before. We saw it 2 times in real life, both races giving us some great action. And we'll of course hope for the same here in AOR next week. But until then, have a good one, and take care, and goodbye.